The lobby of Lab 28 resounded with hysteria. Every pony was shaking, mumbling reassurances, trying to convince themselves the horrors they had just witnessed were but a dream or a hallucination. Fluttershy sat alone, curled up and pouring her eyes out, petrified by fear. Pinkie Pie rocked back and forth in the fetal position, weakly uttering giggle at the ghosties, as she shivered uncontrollably. Rainbow Dash and Rarity huddled together, seeking solace in each other's embrace. Applejack hid her fear under her hat, but was mortified all the same. Several white-clad doctors lay on the floor, holding their temples with their hooves. Twilight Sparkle was speechless, standing over the dead body of the first pony they noticed. Her mind rushed a mile a minute, trying to piece together what had just happened. Frozen in terror, she found herself unable to move. Dr. Antlion was in very much the same state, next to the Lavender Unicorn. But something finally grabbed his attention, enough to make him move. The severed leg. He walked slowly to it, unsure if the limb were still alive, or perhaps even animate, developing into a separate creature like some alien. However, that did not happen. The black talon was still and dead. Its anatomy was strikingly similar to the specimens he had back at his home. There were even those old odd holes in the metacarpal region. A clear white bone stuck out at the point of removal. Meanwhile, Celestia stood with Vixen, both emotionally better off than the rest. Things were quickly beginning to deteriorate, Celestia thought. The beast had confirmed her suspicions, and now the Alicorn had exposed the 6 elements of harmony to an unnatural danger. Chairpony Vixen, on the other hoof, was concerned more about being fired than the safety. In her briny ocean of arrogance, the suited old mare firmly believed whatever had just attacked could be contained, backup would be brought in, and confidentiality agreements would be signed. A few minor hiccups, nothing more. She proceeded to the door and input the code. Or she would have, if the interface weren't destroyed. Sparks flew and crackled and hopelessly inoperative panel. The door mechanisms were damaged too. She called to Celestia. "Princess, please break down the door." Albeit glaring at the pony, Celestia did as she asked, and blasted the magnificent beam of magic at the door. The metal grew red hot, causing the Solar Princess to smile. The smile quickly faded when the blast ended and the door was unfazed. "Chair Pony, why can't I break the door?" I don't know. Try again." Again, she fired the magical stream. And again, the metal behemoth of the door glowed a dim red. And then, again, nothing happened. The princess had unleashed as much energy as she could, and was growing weaker. Why won't it work? What did you make these doors out of?" Vixen's eyes widened as she recalled the materials ordered for the lab's construction. High-quality alloys, proven to be heat-resistant, have immense tensile strength, and be virtually indestructible. It would require industrial equipment to break one down. "So, even I, as powerful as I am, cannot breach these walls? Does that mean we are trapped within this compound?" Celestia tried her best to be quiet, but her words were met the ears of the other ponies. "Trapped? No. That can't be. Please, princess, tell me we aren't trapped." Rarity was groveling at the Alicorn's feet, still trembling. The princess couldn't find an appropriate response. Rarity looked up with absolute desperation in her eyes. "So that's it. We're trapped in the lab, waiting to be eaten by whatever the fuck that was." If there was ever a time when Sun Pony could tell when a heart broke by their countenance, Celestia was certain it was then. Her own chest pained at the gravity of the situation. Defeat overtook every pony as they gathered, waiting to be devoured by a nameless monster. The 6 best friends dropped what grieving they were doing and huddled into a circle, bittersweet smiles meekly forming on their faces. A sort of farewell that meant more than mere words could express. Twilight sought to break that moment and turned to the princess. She wasn't quite sure what to think of her mentor. All 6 of them were disillusioned. Princess, what was that? And what do you have to do with it? There's no reason to lie. It will come back soon enough. Her melancholy tone was an alleviation of the paralyzing fear felt just moments ago. Celestia hesitated to answer. What could be salvaged? Were they truly trapped? Was there a way out? Security needed to remain, but she was backed into a corner. Perhaps fragments could be revealed, and hopefully that would suffice. She cursed her irresponsible rationalization, but it was necessary. Now, the question remained. Would the ever-inquisitive Twilight be satisfied with weak, incomplete answers, trusting the princess? The Alicorn finally opened her mouth, but was interrupted by a distant Dr. Antlion. It's a changeling, isn't it? The similarities are undeniable. Yes, Celestia admitted. A changeling. The doctor continued. But not just any changeling. No, this one seems special. Princess, what is it exactly? We all saw the hive. All the changelings in that population are dead, save for that one. What did you do to them? I assure you, Doctor, we did nothing to exterminate the changelings. However, they met their demise is, as of yet, unclear. Sharepony Vixen chimed in. That's right. We recovered a specimen, but have not yet concluded any tests. Another question I have. This originally seemed far-fetched, but the plausibility has increased. Creatures in nature do not possess both exo and endoskeletons, and that thing's shell is made of keratin. I'm completely open to the idea of biological inquiry, but the dots line up rather well here. Now it was Twilight's turn to join in. He makes a valid point. The lab, its proximity to the hive, the unique nature of the changelings. What does this lab do? And I want the truth. Yeah, I ain't much for all this technical stuff, but I don't take a genius to figure out something's amiss. Applejack stood up and adjusted her hat. My little ponies, I think there is something you should see. Every pony in the room got up and followed the princess as she began to move towards a door, heretofore locked. She pressed a button and the metal door opened, revealing a blue-lit room of tanks filled with water and something else. This is the purpose of Lab 28. They all looked around, investigating the machines and computers. Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy flew up and eyed the displays. Rarity inspected one tank very closely and flinched when she realized what she was staring at. Every pony was subsequently shocked, except the scientists. The tanks were filled with small, pony-shaped objects bearing eerie black dots, oddly similar to eyes. Small protrusions jutted from the main body and seemed to be randomly placed. Each was grotesque in its own way, and appeared like a surrealist art piece. But these weren't sculptures. They looked like diminutive ponies, almost like... Each tank was labeled with numbers, but one in particular stood out, marked 428. The object was wrapped and twisted, scarcely resembling the others. Metal fixtures plagued its own form, resembling a macabre cyborg from a science fiction story. Upon closer inspection, the implants looked like some kind of life support, Twilight turned her attention from the tanks, thoroughly creeped out. Her voice trembling, she addressed Celestia. Princess, what is all this? What are the things inside these tanks? I'll answer that, Vixen interjected. This is Project Cure-All, an ongoing endeavor to discover ways of curing diseases like cancers and congenital disorders, regenerating limbs, and just helping ponykind. Why is it so clandestine? The public hasn't been so receptive of it in the past, but the princess has always been a big supporter. Rainbow Dash read aloud an entry on a screen. Subject number 428 has following problems: cardiac arrest, cerebral hemorrhaging, advanced hypertensive trauma, and complete separation of abdominal cavity. What the hell? Twi, I think these things are alive. Twilight was holding her chin, thinking. Is there any more? Yeah. Read it. Subject, however, has proven most receptive to serum batch 3.21. Synthesis levels approached 65% of projected transformation threshold. Twilight, are they trying to mutate these whatever they are? Twilight merely looked up at Celestia, her face demanding an answer. You see, these are... She had to think fast. Any more lies would be welcome. Kabaliuli. Kaba what? Applejack asked. A Kabaliuli is a small, magically spawned puppet, if you will. Twilight began to explain. Back in ancient times, they were created to play pranks, or even kill ponies. You can charm one to temporarily give it a soul. But I thought they were a great taboo. Princess? Please, see the bigger picture. The scientists here have been trying to bring one to life. A doctor caught on to the lie. Oh, yes. Imagine, Miss Twilight, if we could transform these Kabal-Uli into real ponies. Think of the applications. We would cure all diseases and make a world without weakness. Antlion spoke up, eyes fixed on number 428. You know, I've seen quite a few films that deal with a similar concept. It doesn't normally turn out well. Am I to assume that the Changelings were rogue fruits of Project Cure-All? 'Cause that's what it seems like to me. You all created them, didn't you? And they escaped. The scientist rubbed the back of his head, stumbling over his words. Well, yes, Celestia projected. And this is a very unflattering truth. Please, forgive me, every pony. Their secrecy was necessary to prevent widespread panic. Twilight was stunned. The Changelings were created? But why would Celestia ever be involved with something like that? No. You're kidding, Princess. Tell me you're kidding. Tell me! The Diarch shook her head, her face heavy with guilt. I'm sorry. It is true. They attacked Canterlot because of you. And they killed these ponies because... Don't say it. Celestia's eyes began dripping with tears. We tried so very hard to stop them. None of this was ever my intention. And now? Twilight began. We're trapped. Rarity finished. Food for... Pinky's flat mane visibly screaming her sorrow. Fluttershy hung her head low. And Lion wasn't done. So, you tried to stop them. You provoked the Queen. It's the Queen that's out there. Right. Yes. And you pissed her off. The scientist was quick to debate. We have not. It is a mindless, merciless monster that exists only to kill. It needs no reason but to watch you die. Wait a second, Applejack shouted. If y'all made one, why couldn't y'all make another? Not that that's a bad thing. Vixen replied, because the original mind behind the project, Dr. Stableheart, was killed by the base changeling almost 20 years ago. It also managed to kill its caretaker, Dr. Felthoof. It then escaped and likely founded the swarm. 20 years ago. So you've been trying to replicate it the whole time? Twilight reasoned. Yes. I'd like to believe that, Chairpony, Antlion began. But the Changeling Queen wasn't a vessel for research. It's obviously meant for another purpose. Its shape-shifting abilities, strong armor, speed, regenerative capabilities. This Dr. Stableheart didn't animate a Cabalius to find a cure for cancer. He made a weapon. At that moment, every pony glared at Vixen and the princess, shouting unintelligibly. Now, Dr. Stableheart's research was his intellectual property. Property? He made a monster and let it loose, shouted Rainbow Dash. And now it's mad. Pinkie Pie got fire in her eyes. Damn it, you completely ignorant bioethics, Antlion yelled. It was a necessity, component of foreign policy. We just lost control, Celestia justified. Control? You never had control! Twilight summoned the audacity to speak out against her teacher. Every pony quiet! Applejack screamed. Now we're not here to debate right and wrong. I got apples to buck. Now, Doc, ready your gun, and every pony get what you can to scrounge. This thing ain't immortal, nor is it bulletproof. The tattered guard, still traumatized from the death of his partner, objected. But we tried to shoot it. It didn't work. What caliber were y'all using? 22. That's far too small. Her carapace is too thick. Antlion knew high-caliber weapons would come in handy. I'll stick with this shotgun, if and it's all right. Go for it. Thanks. Now, Chair Pony, y'all got any other exits around here? As a matter of fact, yes. On the wall in this map. Applejack cantered towards a map encased in a glass box. She bucked it, and Twilight levitated the paper out. It was placed on a table. Looks like there's one not far from here. Come on, every pony! The Lavender Mare and all the others had a renewed sense of hope. And if anything moves, shoot it. Applejack pumped the shotgun. The group headed out, Twilight levitating an emergency axe, Rarity with a crowbar, Rainbow Dash clutching a metal pipe, and Fluttershy grabbing some first aid supplies laying around the lab room. Twilight gave Celestia a mean look before rushing to the front with Applejack. Vixen opened a door, and the group went into a dimly lit hall, eyes constantly watching their surroundings. Anything moves, shoot it. The last changeling, hideously deformed, clung to the pipes on the ceiling. These were her halls now. The invaders would come, unaware of what hid in the shadows. She would bide her time, watching and waiting. Let them remain in suspense, feeding only when her psyche dictated. Maximize the fear. The queen needed energy, power. The ponies were but pawns in her final plan. The real prize would come in time. Her shell flaked, and small wounds opened up. So soon? She thought. She could wait a bit longer. Always 3 steps ahead. She knew where they were, in her halls. The darkness was her ally. She could creep anywhere. Change the board to suit her. They were going exactly where she wanted them to. Exactly. Soon, all would be done, and she could fade away, and her pain, her regret,